Recording in progress.
Okay, all right. So, okay, we're going to start now. Oh, all right, good. You can see my screen. Okay, so today we'll be starting with wireframing. And here we're going to start off with the definition from Wikipedia. So it says that a wireframe is a visual guide that represents the skeletal framework of a digital product, such as a website, mobile app, desktop app, and sorry, give me 1 minute. Okay, so let's continue. Sorry about that. Like I said earlier, a wireframe is a visual guide that represents the skeletal framework of a digital product, such as a website, mobile site, and desktop app. Now, wireframing is a common practice among UI UX designers because then it allows the designer communicate information with the stakeholders before they actually begin to design the major app or bring it out for coding. Now, we said, moving on, before we get to what is wireframing, we have to talk about when does wireframing take place. Now, wireframing takes place during the explanatory phase of the period of a product life cycle. In this phase now, we're dealing with coming up the idea level stage of the product, or a phase where we already know what we want to design, but at this point, we're trying to put ideas together to be sure that, okay, this is what we are designing and this is how we would like to design this particular product. Now, it is during this phase, wireframing is like during the phase of wireframing, we're testing the scope of the product, we're testing the ideas. And then, well, there's something that was said in your first class. At wireframing stage, every idea is acceptable. No idea is wrong. No idea is vague. No idea is unimaginable. Everything can be tested during the wireframing period. So what is wireframing? It said, we are saying that this is the phase that involves designers evaluating the product scope and working together as well as brainstorming and figuring out needs. Wireframing is the first version. Is the first version of a product. So we have the importance of wireframing. Now we have talked about wireframing when it is done, the phase is being carried out, and then we're not talking about the importance of wireframing. First, we have they maintain the user focus of the concept. When we talk about the user focus of the concept, user focus of concept in product development, what we're trying to say is that at this phase, they facilitate feedback from users, because at this point, you're coming up with sketches and you're having conversations with stakeholders. What you're doing is generating ideas between designers and the stakeholders, because you don't want to end up coming up with a wireframe and your stakeholders will tell you that that was not what they communicated to you. So that's why we say they are user focused, because anything you sketch, you pass it across with your stakeholders and other designers to understand that, yes, this is what we want at this point and we can move forward from this. Then secondly, define and explain application functionality. So what wireframe does for us is, while communicating our ideas to the clients, they're also telling us that, okay, it helps us to gauge. We have this gauge about the applications we are designing. We are seeing the features, or we are visualizing the features we want to have in this app. We're already like designing the feedback from front to back, where it should go to with this element work while we're working on this particular wireframe. So if I'm too fast, please let me know. If you have any message, any question, please do also drop it in the chat room. I'll go through it. So now we have talked about explain the application functionality. Then now we're moving to 3, what wireframes. Wireframes are quick and inexpensive to produce. When we say they are quick and inexpensive to produce, is that it's very simple to come up with a wireframe. All you need to do when you're coming up with a wireframe is just your pen and paper to sketch. You're not spending a penny, there's nothing you have to spend money on. All you have to do at this point is get your pen and paper, start sketching out what you feel will work for you when you are designing, or what will work for you in this particular app you are working on. Then we're moving on to the next one. Now we have different types of wireframes. Now you've heard of okay, first let's say we have the different types of wireframes. We have the low fidelity wireframe, we have the mid fidelity wireframe, and then we have the high fidelity wireframes. Now, when we talk about low fidelity wireframes, we're talking of the rudimentary visuals. This is the sketches when you're sketching. This has to do with just the basic visual representation of your sketches. They are simple, they are represented by blocks, they have just fields and whole things for the sketches. So that I have an example here. So for low fidelity, this is just your low fidelity wireframe. This is exactly what it looks like. This is you just sketching out on paper what you feel this particular app or website will look like at this phase. Then moving on. So also, before we move on, note that low fidelity wireframes are devoid of any information whatsoever. Like, they don't have this plenty information. They're just filled with dummy text, filler text, rectangles, and all of that. You just know that, okay, this is the text here. This is what I'm putting here. The circle represents a profile picture. A line represents a text, and that's that. Then we're moving on to mid-fidelity wireframes. In mid-fidelity wireframes, we're now moving from the drawing we have. We're now moving from the distractions we have. We're now going to something that's more explicit and is something that you can relate to, because the first phase you had just lines and drawings and rectangles to represent your text, your photos, your heading. But in mid-fidelity, now we are moving to an accurate representation where we are now beginning to assign specific things to actions in the design. So we're not putting colors, we're using gray shade. That's why most times you notice that at high fidelity, you're not beginning to have color, where you have your gray shades, and then you tend to start putting your text. So instead of your lorem ipsum or just lines, you're now putting in text, and then you're allocating more information to your mid-fidelity wireframes. So this is an example. Like you can see here now, we now have text where you have the home page. You're trying to describe what you want or what you're going to put in here. At least this is more explanatory, it's coming to life more. And also third, we're moving to high fidelity wireframes. Now, high fidelity wireframes is the last of them all. Here, we're now becoming more specific about what we want to design or what we are designing. At this point, we are now replacing all text with the real text. We're using the images for the real images we need for the design to pass out the information or pass out what we want. At this point, your stakeholders get to understand you better, because now you're now passing out an information that relates to what they're building. So if you can see my screen now, this is an example. At this point, the first screen you're seeing, or the first image you're seeing, is more or less a mid-fidelity wireframe where we have used the Lato text and rectangles and all of that for representation. But now in the high fidelity, that's the second image you're seeing, you're noticing that all the texts have been replaced. We have the right text, we have the right images put in. So at this point, stakeholders can relate with this. Designers ourselves can relate with it. The engineers can relate with it, because we're now bringing everything that we're designing to life, and here it is. This is what we are designing. So whatever changes that will be made can be made here, because this is all because now everything is showing and it's now live. So now what is included in a wireframe? You know, when you're designing wireframes, you have certain things that are included or certain things that have to be put in when you are designing it. So now these features are determined based on what wireframe we're looking at. If it's mainly determined by the wireframe, that if it is low, if it is medium, or if it is a high fidelity wireframe. Now, examples of what we have the logos, that's your logo, yeah, the logos, we have the search fields, we have the headers, share buttons, the lorem ipsum placeholder text, the wireframes. We also have navigation systems, the content information. The footer may also be included. That's when you're moving on to a high fidelity wireframe. Because all this plays a role. Each element you need will happen based on which type of fidelity, which type of wireframe you're designing. Then moving on, we have the typography and the artwork, which will not be included in your low fidelity or mid fidelity, but it shows in your high fidelity, because now, as I said earlier on, you're beginning to, in high fidelity now, you can relate to what you need other people, what you need your stakeholders to see, and then you're putting all the text in place so that they understand what you have been designing so far. Then, because usually if designers design wireframes in grayscale, but then you're free to experiment with other colors, because it's not just about it's more than just grayscale in designing. You can add other colors such as lighter colors to create like a high contrast, or to point out that, okay, this means this and this is what I need to do. So that's all we have. Yes, this means this is all we have to do. Then so that's basically all about wireframes. And I don't know if you have other questions concerning this, or if I was too fast, but always note that your wireframes can have other colors, but just make sure that it's the lighter representations. I'll be going through the chat now to see if you have any questions for me. Okay, I can see some questions here in the chat room, but Mr. Mav has already answered that. So this is all we have to say today concerning wireframes. I think I'm right on time. I didn't use my 30 minutes. I still have 10 minutes more. So if you have any questions, please go ahead to drop it in the chat so that we can answer it. So Mav, I'm handing over to you now. I don't think I've seen any questions.
All right. Okay, so I believe you guys can hear me, and yeah, so I'll take over from here. I'm going to share my screen. I think you have a question probably. Can you check? So someone is asking, can I use any color in high fidelity but maintain the hue? Yeah, maybe I can take that, right?
Oh, okay, no problem. You can take that.
Okay. I think there's an echo probably.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, basically you can, right? In your high fidelity, you can, but when you say, can you use any color? I believe you must have done your research already, before picking or before selecting a color, right? And if you understand the meaning of hue, you're trying to create multiple variants of the same color, from a lighter option to a deep or dark option. So long you're working with the right set of, color or with the right set of colors, you can definitely use multiple hues to, define or try to point out, contrast basically. So I think, yes, you can, but it depends on what you're trying to do at the end of the day. Another question here is to take into account the users who are visually challenged, okay, colorblind. how do we go about the choice of colors to use? Well, so there are some set of colors, of course. I mean, there are websites and there are platforms that can show you the level of accessibility that your color is going to provide at the end of the day. And there are tools that you can use to verify these things. And hopefully, maybe in another session we can just do some research and prepare those kind of materials for you. I think that's from Muftanatu. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name well. So we can definitely arrange a couple of resources for that. Okay. Yeah, but that is something you always need to put in mind. Accessibility, right, is something you need to always consider. So I am going to first share my screen. And yeah, I'm going to close a couple of tools that I have opened up here, such as Discord. Okay, so just let me know. Once you can see my screen, let me know. Desktop. All right, I'm currently sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Please drop a message on the chat. I think probably someone is dropping a question. Let me see. Oh, okay, nice. So you can see my screen. Awesome. All right, so I have a different thing to share.
Someone is asking, okay. So this question is saying, what are the significance of some shapes at low fidelity frames? Now, those shapes, what they stand for is they stand to give you a representation of what you want to do at that point. Now, for circles, circles in low fidelity, they tend to represent profile, user. Then for rectangles are used as to hold images or stand as a header to differentiate what is going on at that point. Lines are used to represent text. So more or less like this particular text is going to be here. So you have those thick lines and thin lines. Okay, sorry, so there's an echo in the audio. All right, let me see where that's coming from. I think, is this better? Let me know. So that's what I mean. He said, while wireframe is just sketches, low fidelity and mid fidelity. Anu Oluwapo, I do not understand this question, so you can do well to like explain what you're trying to say, so that I don't say something that is not related to this. So if I can get, okay, can high fidelity also be the finished work? Yes, high fidelity is the finished work. Yes, can also be the finished work. Now for Anu Oluwapo, I think what you're trying to say here is sketches. Now your low file most times are always sketches because you're trying to visualize or come up with what you want your app to be and how you want it to feel. So you can't just go to Figma and start designing or start coming up with an app. You have to work on your low file while you have your sketches. So Mr. Mav is ready and he will continue with the questions. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just realized that the volume was so low. So, did you hear me? Maybe I should take that again. Okay, so sorry about that. So I'm going to take that again because I was actually muted. Okay, so basically, I said, before we implement our wireframes, you should have conducted some sort of research, right? You should have conducted some research, and you should have gathered some requirements, of course, discussed with users, and at least try to understand what they want, right? We are going to have a UX session, where we invite someone and we interview someone live. But for now, what I'm going to basically do is that I'm going to assume that we are trying to work on a particular application, and the expectation here is that we already the things we want, right? The things we want to have a profile page. So we're going to have like first of all, we're going to have like a login page. I'm sure this is like probably you're not seeing it well. I'm going to sketch out those stuffs. But we're going to have like a login page. We're going to have like you know, uh, a wallet page, right? A wallet page that will show like the user details. So don't bother yourself with the text. We're going to just come up with a very simple sketch. And I was also explaining that before we come up with these sketches, what we usually do is we have different screen sizes, different screen sizes that we would usually print out on a plain sheet like this. And we print out these sizes depending on the size we're trying to design for. So it can be a tablet size, probably like 10 inches. It can be 7 inches. It can be, your regular Android 5.5 inches. So, we have these different targets, screen sizes based on what we are building for at the moment. For now, we are just going to come up with a random sketch. We don't necessarily need to do that. It works, right? I mean, it works as a wireframe as well. So let us go ahead, to come up with a very simple sketch. So let's say we are trying to design a login page. I am simply going to, okay, so I'm simply going to work with this, just to have that straight, something really smooth at this point. It's not compulsory, you can always, end up. So now we have a very simple, shape that is currently representing our mobile device. And we want to show that, we need the email and the password field, right? So basically, as I said earlier, it can be a single line, or you can also make this look more like an input field, right? So we're going to have two input fields here. So we have the email and the password. I'm just going to simply put that text here, email, and then password. Okay. So now we are currently showing that we're going to have like, the email and the password field, and finally a button. Now, the major thing is whatever shape you're using here, someone should be able to really understand what you're putting in, right? So I'm going to write login. The major reason why I'm writing the text inside this shape is to make you understand that this item is, rather it's clickable, it's a button. And I am putting this text on top of this field so that you would also understand that, okay, this is an input field, which means we expect something, to come in here, right? You can decide to use a straight line. It really doesn't matter, at this current stage. And let's assume that we're going to have a session here that would, contain some kind of image. Most times you see, your wireframes, you have this kind of shape, basically describing that, yeah, you're going to have an image right here. So this is a very basic, simple screen. You might also want to show that you want to have something like, forgot password. You can have that written here as a text. You understand? So you can also say, okay, I want to be able to, I want to have an icon here. You see what I just did here? This is a simple box again that is crossed, showing that I'm going to have an icon right here. And I mean, for any designer seeing this, they would probably expect that, okay, we are going to have, the password visibility or invisibility icon, right? The icon that you can use to toggle, to show if the password should be visible or not, right? So now you have a very simple, basic screen. You can always put other items. Let's assume you want to have like an email or like a user icon. You can always do that as well. If that is what you really want to do. This is showing us that this is going to be an icon or a particular image. And you know, I have worked with people where you know what they do within the team is to always you know, put a couple of pointers to show or to really verify that you know, this is going to be you know, an input field. This is not compulsory, right? I don't think this is necessary. You know, a button, you know, they are able to have different captions, you know, matching this stuff, you know, the button, the input field, and finally maybe the image, right? So image. Okay, so this is just showing that, okay, these are the several things we should have here. And as I said earlier, this is not compulsory. Of course, when working in a team, your team should understand, you should have a way to represent different, you know, components on paper. And once they see this component, they know what you're trying to, you know, they know what you're trying to do exactly, right? So looking at this, we just have a very simple, you know, screen that would show our image, the email, password, you know, and the login button. Remember that you can also have other items like, you know, login with email, login with Google, login with Facebook. We're not doing that here. So this is really, you know, really basic. Okay. And yeah, so we're going to move this to a digital tool, right? We're going to move this to a digital tool. But before we do that, I just want to be sure you can still see my screen. 1 minute. Yeah, so let me know in the chat if you. Oh, okay. So someone just informed me that the camera is currently on mirror mode. Yeah, but all right. So give me a second. Okay, so I just paused. Okay, so give me a second. Let's me fix that. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, I think yeah. So I believe you at least get the point of this sketch. You know, very simple, very basic sketch. What I'm going to do right now is to then design the second screen. You know, to sketch the second screen, and the second screen is simply going to be you know, a profile screen. But this time around, we're going to, you know, make sure that this is more you know, detailed, right? So now we're going to have a bigger yeah, we're going to have something bigger, and you don't necessarily need to have, you know, something big. I'm just trying to make sure we optimize, you know, the space, and we have enough you know, screen area to describe various components, right? Okay, so now we're going to work with this, and this is going to be like our profile screen. What we are going to have at this point is we're going to show that we have first off, let's just assume, you know, on the profile screen, it means we have a previous page that probably is the dashboard, you know, and we're going to simply say, okay, we have an icon that would you know, take us to the previous page. Now, instead of representing it this way, remember, we can always do this, right? So that is going to be an icon. You can describe your icon in a form of you know, documentation, probably around this, or maybe when you move this into the digital application like Figma, right? You can always, you know, put some kind of description around some of these things. So we're going to have another icon. Maybe we'll be able to use this icon to edit profiles, right? So, and then we're going to have you know, the user profile image show up here before we put in some wallet details at the bottom. So we can decide to have the image, you know, show up in the center, but because I am trying to optimize for space, I am simply going to, you know, I'm going to simply have, I'm going to have a simple box here. You know, this is going to show the user's image, right? And then we have the user name, right? So this is, you know, a straight line. And after the name, we're probably going to have an email. You know, it depends. I mean, it still depends on what you're trying to do, but this is just an example. So you have a name, and then you have the email that would show up right here. Okay, so we're going to have the user, we're going to have the user phone number, and probably the user's yeah, I think I've seen stuffs like this. I've seen, like, you know, the phone number, and then we have another set of detail that will probably show maybe like the account number, marked with XXX at some point, just so that it won't be completely visible. I'm going to have two icons that would show like the phone icon and probably like an account icon, right? So I have the phone number, I have the account number, and sometimes I would always write these things down so you don't forget them. So we have the phone number, because we're going to try to replicate this account number. So I'm just taking this thing down. Here I said we have the name and the email. So we have the name and the email. Okay. So at the top level here, we have the name and email, and here we have the phone number and the account number. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to have here is, let's say we have a very simple demarcation, and we're going to show like, the account balance, the user's account balance right here. And at the bottom, we're going to have a text, that would say, okay, this is the wallet, right? And then at this point, I think I can decide to stop here. So this demarcation is basically just a straight line, showing that this area, probably I would have like a different background color to set some kind of highlights. This is the account balance, and this is the title, the title that was shown. So let's say we can say wallet balance right here, and this will be bigger. You might also decide to have the wallet balance at the top and then the value at the bottom. It depends on how you choose to implement this as well, right? If we are going to have something at this point, I don't have anything coming to my head right now, but I feel it is possible to say you have, yeah, probably we'll get back to that. So we'll get back to that. So let's assume that we don't want to work with a side, it's the sidebar thing, right? So basically, just to show an example, you might say you have a screen, and then when you click on the menu, you have the sidebar show up, and then probably inside the sidebar, you have, those your profile details that we entered right now with a bunch of menu items. We're not doing that here. We're not doing that in this example. So instead, we're going to assume we have 3 or 4 menu items, just displayed at this point. And I'm not really calling it a menu item in this case. Instead, I would say they are kind of like, quick actions, because probably those are some of the options you would want to select when you are on this page. Things like, make payments, right? Things like transfer, things like, see transactions, or probably transaction history. So let's assume we have, transaction history, transfer money. Then let's say we also have, settings, right? Then remember we have, I'm going to extend this. I'm going to extend this. So at this point, I said we had 3 items. First was transaction history. I know you can't see this very well. So we have, I said quick transfer, right? Or I said transfer funds, anyways. So finally, I said, what do we call this? Okay, let's just use something different. So if we're having transaction history, we have quick transfer. Probably the next thing we might have here might be yeah, maybe settings, right? Let's just say settings. Okay. All right. So we have these 3 items right here, and we're also going to have some icons just by the side. Okay. All right, so finally we have our regular menu items. So let's say we have 4 menu icons, for example. I'm just going to put those 1, 2, 3. I think it's preferred when you have like 3, right? I'm using 4 here, but I would definitely advise to limit choices to like 3 at this point. And this is the menu. Yeah, I would also call that. I would call that kind of like I think it's called the, yeah, in some cases, if I don't know, but basically, what I'm trying to describe here, so you don't, confuse this for the other menu item on your Android or your mobile device. You might have some regular menu, some regular items, to view all apps, right? To go to the home, go to the home screen, to probably the back button here. So this one I'm describing here is basically part of your app. So you have some kind of things like probably profile. Maybe one of these items might be profile. So let's just make another set of assumption. Maybe you have a profile, and now I'm describing the set of items you have here. This was describing what we had here. this was describing what we had here, and this item was basically describing what we had here. So we have like, the profile. I'm going to assume that the first one is the profile. The second one is also, linking to the same functionality here. Let's say transfer, right? Transfer. Then let's say we have, yeah, let's assume we have withdraw, right? Withdrawal or something, okay? And then let's say we now have the final item, which is probably also settings. It's not making sense that we now have like settings here, but just because we lack we lack understanding of what we are actually trying to put in here. So let's just proceed with the flow, right? So let's also say we have settings, right? Yeah, so let's just leave it like this. And this is, what we have. Now we've been able to come up with a very simple wireframe. It looks, straightforward. There's no level of complexity. And the reason why I am doing this is because, we don't want to write this text in here. It doesn't matter if you write this text in here, that works as well. You can write this text, transaction history, quick transfer, just because I'm trying to optimize for space and not have everything look bulky. That's why I am writing them outside. If you're using like, your normal, your regular pen to write this, you can definitely, it's a sketch, right? It's a very simple sketch. The next thing we're going to do right now is to transfer this to Figma. I need to see, I think we still have little time, right? Okay, so do you have any question based on what I've done so far? Then we can just quickly transfer this sketch into Figma. Do you have any question? Okay.
So if you have any question, drop it in the chat so that we can answer them.
Okay, so since I'm not seeing any question coming in right now, I believe you can still see my screen. So at this point, I'm going to quickly open up Figma. Okay, so I think there's a question in the chat right now. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I would have loved to, I would love to do this within Figma itself, and then probably would, see if we have enough time to come back to, just to show you a quick example on how you can also do wireframing in a FigJam. One reason why you might want to do wireframing in FigJam is probably because you want to have, external teams or, external, probably you want to have guests join your brainstorming session, maybe like guests from the client's end, right? And you don't want to give them access to the file. You can have that brainstorming session because using FigJam for brainstorming is definitely more it's fun, right? The collaboration level is definitely improved because of the kind of things you could do. You could drop stickers, it's very interactive, right? But for now, let's go ahead and first close this. I'm going to simply create a file, a new design file. Okay, so someone is saying, can I just do low wireframe and then high? Yes, you can. You definitely can. Okay, you can. The major reason why you have that 3 levels, high, mid, and low, is basically just to help you monitor the progress, right? The progress as you advance, or maybe you're making changes, you're making a lot of adjustments. But of course, I would definitely just implement the low fidelity and then probably move on to, adding my pictures and colors and, making this high fidelity. So yeah, now I'm going to come up with a very simple, let's work with the Android Large, right? So I have Android Large here, and I'm going to first pick the initial example. Now, one thing you might do is, you can easily capture what we've done. We can capture what we've done with our mobile camera. We can do that, capture what we've done, and then put it in here side by side. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to design this from scratch here. But that is one of the easier ways to just kind of like you're cloning what you designed on paper. So you have it in here, and then you're just repeating that, inside your artboard, right? And that is something you might want to do. Okay, so first, within our design, we said we're going to have like a very simple image. One thing that you notice I did not do, and I think for best practice, I would always advise you to try as much as possible to set up your, not auto layout, but your layout grid. Yeah, so let's fix that. So I'm going to make this 8, and yeah, I'm simply going to use 20. So I'm going to start this from here just to make sure. All right. Okay. Okay, so I said we're going to have like this image thing at the top here, to show probably the login image of maybe some kind of welcome message or so. I'm going to drop this, the color sometimes, I'm going to drop it to 3 so that we can, have a very good space. We can have a very decent amount of space to work with. So next, I'm simply going to just, draw out this item. So someone is saying, is 8 and 20 the best layout grid to use for every mobile app design? No. And I am using this because I am fond of using this, starting from, I think when I used XD, when I used XD, when I migrated to Sketch, some of the instructors I used in learning this stuff, they loved working with 8. Speaking of best practices, I think, I'm trying to make you understand that working with a layout grid is a good option, so that what I'm checking for right now is the margin. If I am trying to work on my typography, I would also want to ensure that I'm using the right, layout grid here. Yeah, so for me, I think the margin for Android, I always use 20. The margin for web, I personally use 80, right? But you see people using different options. So I have also noticed some people work with 6, right? I used 8, and on the web, I use 12, right? So basically what I'm doing here is what you would call your grids, right? I would use 12 for the web. For my mobile, I work with 8. Maybe we can search, to see probably some of the preferred patterns, from companies like Google. I'm sure they would, yeah, or maybe Amaka can contribute to this particular question later on when I'm done. Okay, so I'll proceed right now. I'm going to quickly take off the fill and just work with a stroke. Right here, I'm going to ask, this is my input field, right? This is just my input field. We're going to have a very simple text here. And yeah, this is going to be email. So let us go ahead and, probably make this 14. So, there are actually sizes. I think it depends. If you're working with like material design, of course, this is Android. So you should probably be working with something like material design. There are wireframe kits that you would use. I won't advise that you do this from scratch all the time. I would personally use a wireframe kit if I am designing for a client. I don't want to waste my time doing this. And when I mean wireframe kits, what I'm trying to say is there are some companies or individuals that have designed a bunch of kits that you can easily just copy and paste and use them. You know what they denote, right? The image, and basically I might have done something like something like this. But you already have wireframe kits that have done this stuff already for you. So doing this is probably not the best use of your time, if you get what I mean. So let's simply add a stroke, and let's drop this down to 50. Okay, so I'm going to group this together. So now you have like this image stuff. We can easily duplicate this, reduce the size, and even use it for icons, So, but try as much as possible to check out wireframe kits and make use of wireframe kits. I think it's better to spend more time doing the important stuffs, right? So we have the email icon here. I'm simply going to copy and paste this, and we're duplicating this right now. I would rather group this. I'm grouping these items so that I can move them together, right? Let us copy. Let us paste. I'm going to, not like that. I'm going to simply drag this item down to the bottom. I would call this password, and I would also group these items together. I tend to, try as much as possible to watch my spacing, and I always do that with this inspect item. So I watch the spacing in between these two items. And yeah, I would say you don't really need to, spend a lot of time on this as well, probably until you get to working on, high fidelity. I'm using the 10px or, the 10px space in between. So I'm going to ensure that I have the same thing in between this item. And yeah, so I have 10, I'm going to group as well. then probably select these two items and group them as well, right? So I have email, I have password. Remember that within the password component, we had a different item here. So maybe if you know how to use auto layout, which is what I just applied right now, you can use auto layout to set your space between. It's not necessary to always use this. I mean, it's easy. It makes things easy for you, but it's not necessary because I think it's good to really know how to do some of these things manually as well. So that when you get to a company that is already using a tool like Sketch, I mean, I primarily use Sketch myself. So you can see I have Sketch pinned right here. And, of course, Amaka loves Figma, and she happens to be the design lead. So I have no choice but to also to use Figma. But yeah, so you get the point. It's good to be flexible. So I am simply going to design a button. Of course, I can simply use auto layout to come up with this button, right? Yeah, but I'm still trying to make you understand that, as beginners, I don't want you to feel that using auto layout is the only way or probably the perfect way. When I started working on designs, we basically have to design this, and we have like the rectangle, and I think you still do something like this in some tools, right? You still do something like this even on production, like on design production level, you still do things like this, and there's nothing wrong with this at all. So long you have like proper alignments. You might say you want your buttons to have just to separate this from what you have on top. You might say you want the text on the buttons to be white. This should be let's try the auto. Oh, sorry, I think I should use this. Okay, so I'm going to align this properly to the center, and then the text, this field should be black. So I'm using black here because, of course, this is a wireframe, but most times you might not want to use black directly. It's not like there's anything wrong with black. I think it depends at the end of the day on what you're trying to implement, right? Imagine you are working in a fashion house, black might not be a bad idea. Okay, so on our wireframe as well, we said we wanted to have the forgot password thing here. So forgot password. Okay, so we have to align this item properly. Let's cut that, paste again, and bring it closer right here. Maybe you might want the text to be smaller as well. I mean, it's optional. It depends. And I'm making it 12 because I'm trying to lay lesser emphasis on this, since we have this to be 14. And of course, we did not really bother ourselves with these options, basically because we're still working on the wireframe. So let's go ahead and group this item, and probably I would have a question mark here, forgot password, more like a question. Okay, so let us also, so let's see what we have in between this item. This is 22. I am simply going to group this and, ensure I have 22 as well here. Okay, so now we have a very simple, login view, right? A very simple login view. I'm going to stretch this image a little bit. So remember that you would have like, the status. So someone is asking, are there standard font sizes for different display? Yeah, and you have to follow. It's good to follow specifications. So if you remember, we have told you in the past that you have let's say you're designing for Android. You have the material spec. You can check out the material spec and try to follow the spec right there, because users are already familiar with these specs, right? So following those specs would make things easier for your users because it's something they're familiar with. You don't want to have, I've seen some people, they will put in, and there's nothing wrong with having, login, right? There's nothing wrong with having like a login text. We don't have this on our wireframe, but there's nothing wrong with having this and then, making this size, since we are using 14, let's add 8 to 14 and let's just say 24. So, there's nothing wrong with doing this at all. But some people would rather make this like, very bold, very big. They are thinking out of the box. So yeah, I mean, no problem at all. But, I think it's sometimes good to ensure that, you're building with the patterns that the users are familiar with, right? You have login, maybe you have some text or some descriptions, I don't know, but we're not doing that here. Okay, so this is what we have right now. If you are following or if you're using a wireframing kit, you would probably have these details you can just put in here and continue with your stuff, right? You don't necessarily need to think about it. I don't think I have any sample right here. I doubt. Yeah, I doubt. So I am simply going to check. Let's go back. I doubt if I do, but I mean, it's good to, let's see, wireframing. Okay. Okay, so I doubt, but I am very sure you can find mobile wireframe. Okay, so let's see. You can definitely find a lot of wireframing kits in the community. I'm very sure of that. I have a very large wireframing kit for Android, iOS, but on Sketch, and I'm sure you can also find similar wireframing kits for Figma. And yeah, I strongly believe you will find one for Figma. So let's proceed. The next screen, while I'm checking for the kit, right? The next thing we're going to implement now is the second page. Okay. So remember that what you would have here. So this is more like the low fidelity. Probably for the mid fidelity, you can now start putting things like icons, probably with less colors. So we can try adding some icons here. Let's see, what is the Okay, so you can decide to add some icons here, for the password, for email. I think I have also recommended some some icon tools. I believe we also have Iconify, if I'm not mistaken, in Figma. I can't remember, but I currently use the icon set, so I can just search for a password. No, that is not correct. So remember we said we have low fidelity, we have mid fidelity, and basically what you did not understand here is, Amaka was trying to explain to you that when you are coming up with this sketch, probably on paper, you don't necessarily need to, go through the stress of, writing those texts. It's not compulsory, but having those texts doesn't matter. Trust me, okay? So having this text like this doesn't really matter. You know what you're trying to do. You can't come up with a sketch on paper and at the same time, replicate the same sketch. You're not doing a graphic design, right? So basically, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to implement, and we can assume that what we've done right now is, low-fi, right, which is low fidelity, and then let's say for mid fidelity, this is where we can start, brainstorming on the kind of icons to use, on the type of picture to use, but we don't really need to place a lot of emphasis here until we then get to, the high fidelity, where we can start changing those, putting the right images, setting the right background color. The high fidelity can be totally different based on the colors, and I would try to finish up with this, use this as an example. So what I'm going to do is, I'm simply going to take off, those texts in there. Let's quickly move on to open on Splash. And while that is opening, I'm going to search for, let's say, key. Okay, so this is going to be like the password icon, that would sit right here. Okay. And yeah, I can see that on Splash is taking some time to open. All right. So I can, take off the stroke. I can even decide to add like border radius because I love them. Okay. And yeah, so I can also, so I'm going to take off this item, but basically let me start from here. So I think I brought in one icon right now. I can't find it. Okay, let's bring that again. Okay, so I have that icon. So basically I'm going to ungroup some of these items, so it will be easier for me to, move around. Okay, ungroup. What else? Ungroup. Okay. All right. So I have that password, that key item here, and of course you always have to ensure that you're using the right size that you want to use for the icons. But let's leave it this way. Select this item. Probably drop the opacity to 10. And maybe add the border radius. So also for this icon, I would drop the opacity because I want to ensure that I have a good, a decent amount of spacing, And yeah, if I'm really implementing this, I would. So someone is asking how to do on group. I use the shortcut. I use Control on my laptop, Command Shift G. That's the shortcut. If you're using a Mac, on a Windows, it might be Control Shift G. Please try it and verify. I'm not very sure of that. Try that and verify. And I was trying to explain that if you notice right now, these items are, I'm not using auto layout for this. Auto layout will definitely make it easier for you and faster. But yeah, there's still nothing wrong with. Oh, okay, thank you. So there's still nothing wrong with using auto layout or even not using auto layout for this. So I think this is okay. The next thing I might want to put in here is this other icon that probably close. Let's search for I. Probably this icon would work. Okay. So using auto layout here would definitely be better, but we're not going to that route. So I'm going to drop this as well. Let's drop this as well from the selection colors here. Let's drop this to 50. Probably we can adjust this a little bit. Let's leave this at 70. And I'm going to also ungroup these items, take this off, and probably just duplicate this, right? I want to duplicate this because I don't want to spend much time doing it again, right? And yeah, so let's see what is the distance right here. This is 10. Okay, perfect. And now for the email, I'm going to simply search for user, right? And let's just use this, or let's work with this. Okay. All right, so let's see, design. Okay, so I'm simply going to also use the same level of opacity here. I'm just dropping the, color a little bit, applying some transparency. You can definitely choose not to use transparency, but use, touch on the selector's color and, adjust the color in here. So, just so that we don't waste too much time. For the primary color, let's just assume that the primary color for this particular implementation is blue, right? And we are also going to stick to the same border radius, which is 4. Right? And then we have our text in here just like this. So, and this should be login. I don't know why I used password. I have absolutely no idea why I put password in here. So this should be login. So you see, I'm already making a couple of adjustments, putting the color in there in the, mid fidelity, I won't say it's necessary, right? I mean, we can assume that, okay, at this stage, we don't know the color yet, we don't know the color to use, but at least we know what a couple of components should look like, So the next thing I might do is probably pick this item and, reuse this item here. Okay. All right. And, right here, we say, okay, we finally decided that, we want to go with, a color that would work. I don't think that color would work for me. So let's stop here. And also for our background, I want to, I definitely would not use like the plain white. So I'll just drop this a little down to like, F3, I think F3 works. So F3. So let's just do F3, F3, F3. Okay. So yeah, then, you might add any other item you want to add, like the status bar, as we discussed earlier. I don't think I have them, but yeah, let's see. Okay. I mean, what do we have here? Okay, so yeah, this is an example of a wireframing kit. You can see you have a bunch of items you might want to use, but I was hoping they would have. Oh yeah, and this is great because you see they have even some kind of keypad, items that you could use, for numbers, for typing regular text and emails, So I think this is something you can also this is something you would enjoy using. Okay, so we have even a bunch of buttons and toggles. So this is great. You can check this out. Mobile wireframing kits, UI kits. You can check it out. Search on the community. I'm sure you would find it. So basically, we just did something very simple. Straight to the point. We just replicated this item. Unfortunately, we won't be able to replicate the next item. So I think this is something I can share the wireframe with you, and you guys would work on this. I don't know, but I think if Amaka is going to be, giving you this as a task, I doubt, because she told me she already have a different task for you. For the previous task, please go ahead and submit again. Some of you submitted the wrong link. So if you want to submit your task, just click on share. You ensure that anyone that has access to this can view. I think from here can view. Then you copy this link. Don't share the browser link, right? Submit to this link. So once I copy this, for example, I'm trying to show you an example. All I have to do, okay, my Discord is closed, but once I open Discord, all I have to type, once I have Discord open, all I have to type is simply task one. I put a space and I paste the link, right? So task one, I put a space and I paste the link. It's as simple as that, right? Then I hit enter, right? So you send this straight to the comrade bot, and it would give you. Make sure you have task one, because that's the tag, with this sign, task one, then the link, and you hit enter. So ensure you submit your task again, because we're having it, we're finding it difficult to, mark your assignments. Okay. And yeah, so this is quite simple. So we moved on from, the lo-fi, we didn't really do anything on the mid fidelity, but we arrived here. All we did here was, made some adjustments. So let's assume during brainstorming session, this is where you guys would sit, to decide, okay, which icon should we use, which kind of what's the border radius, and the rest of them, before you finally end up having the high fidelity with, the status bar, and with the images, and probably with any other footer navigation that you would have, right? Yeah. So we could not do the other screen because I think it's just it's 109 already. So someone is asking, what is the justification for not using what's that? I think you're talking about black and white. So if that is what you mean, I said for me, and most designers, they will tell you, working with, pure colors like that, black, white, it's almost similar. So let me show you something. And I'm sure you won't like to work with a color. So let's assume we want to do a design, take a look at this color. This is blue, right? This is blue. And then let's compare this color to, a different color like this, right? Something soft and something that is not too sharp for your eyes, right? Then let's also compare to black. I mean, you can even look at Figma dark theme. Basically, every dark theme. This is Figma you're seeing right here. Take a look at your browser if you have dark theme on your browser. Take a look at Notion. Take a look at any website working with dark theme. Black is not the best choice because most people okay, so someone is asking, so most people will find it difficult working looking at direct colors like black or white, right? So you need to make it soft by adding a certain by working with a certain level of trying to work with a color that is not directly white or not directly red. Just imagine we are working with let's say we want to work on maybe like a food app or so, and we're using red. Red might not be the best option, but one will come down to something soft. Can you see what I have here? So this is looking softer, right? And even when you want to work with orange, you might not want to work with orange directly, like the pure color. You might always want to drop down to some certain levels on that color. So that's the point. Same applied to black, right? So this is what black looks like. Pure black. I can use black on a fashion website. Depends on it. It depends on what I am trying to implement. But most times I would also want to go at least a bit away from black and use something very close to black. So the point is the experience, right? When people look at your design, you don't want it to be so sharp. You don't want it to be I mean, you want it to have a soft feeling, right? So that's just the point I'm trying to pass here, and I hope you understand that. So someone is saying background color is not necessary on the high. Okay, so I think you mean high fidelity, not high Wi-Fi, right? And you said background color is not necessary. That is Catherine, right? So Catherine, maybe you can ask your question again because I don't seem to understand you. So you said this, okay, you have a question mark there, so I think it's kind of confusing. So the next one, what's the name of the app you use to get icons? Oh yeah, that is called the icon sets. I think it's an icon set from icons 8. And I think it's free. It's completely free, actually. Icon set from icons 8, so you can use that. Yeah, so drop other questions and we'll end this stream on this session by probably 3 minutes time. Amaka, please, I think you can take over from here. Thank you. All right.
Oh, one more thing.
So, hello guys, Catherine. Okay. Said at what point do we get to iterate our wireframe and design if necessary? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take that. Just give me a
Oh, sorry, I was muted again. All right, so yeah, that question is a very nice question. So you're saying, at what point do we need to iterate our wireframe and design if necessary? So I think it depends on your, clients or probably the requirements, changing. You are not, deciding for yourself, right? So you send out something out there. You interview the users. You first get the initial feedback. You work on something. You test with the users. User testing, of course. They use the prototype or they use the, probably they even test your wireframe. They can, you can test your wireframe with your users, and then, based on the feedback they give to you, you make some adjustments, right? So basically that is what you do. So it's based on the feedback, right, that you receive, and that is for Obasa. So Catherine is saying you didn't add background color, so I'm asking if it's not needed. Okay, so it depends on the it depends on your design too. If maybe you're building an app that requires a background color, I don't think what we're doing right now requires a background color. And even if you're adding a background color, you have to be careful because remember that I would advise that you always stick to what users are familiar with, which is in most cases a light theme or a dark theme, right? So if you're using the dark theme, then it should be dark. And maybe I can show you a quick example from the BoldClick website. I think there was this case study that Amaka published. Yeah, I know Amaka is going to be, yeah, we have spent more than enough time, but I'm quickly going to share this with you. So just let me know if you can see my screen. Oh yeah, you can, but you can't see my browser, can you? All right, so yeah, so mind the tabs. Okay, so there's this yeah, so you take a look at this, for example, you see we have different applications with light themes, right? This is a light theme implementation, but we have multiple applications here. For example, this is a different design, and if I go down to this, we have a dark theme. So maybe your question around the background color is maybe to use something like blue or yellow, right? So at the end of the day, it depends on what you're trying to implement, what you're trying to achieve. But you have to be very careful when using colors because your entire audience might not love those colors, right? But they might not have any problem working with the dark or light theme because it feels natural to them, right? But the colors might be off and they might not, have a nice time, looking at those colors. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you. And I think I can see we have more questions. And the next question was a bit, I think it's
a bit long.
Where is the question, by the way? Can you read the question? Because I can't seem to find it again. Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can see it now.
All right.
Okay, an experience a friend had last week while working on an agile group for a real life product. She said the developer complained repeatedly about designers using opacity to derive shades of color instead of using different hues. And it says it confuses the developer at the development stage of the product. Is that true? Well, yes. And I can also tell you yes. And that is why I said the other time that I am using the opacity thing because we are just doing our wireframe. it's always advisable, and I would advise, because I am also a developer, so you must understand that I've experienced such problems, when I, receive designs. So when you use hues, when you use opacity, you end up realizing that the color that you are asking me to pick from your design is not the exact color, but it's a different color with opacity, right? And then I am confused because I don't really know the color we're working with right now, right? So you might ask me to use a shade, something like a gray, and then you gave me black with opacity, and it looks like gray on your design. But when I'm picking it up, I am just picking up black with opacity. So that is a problem for the developer because there's confusion. He is not sure of the color he is using, and even though both colors look similar at the end of the day, during implementation, it's confusing because you don't know the color you're working with at the end of the day. So that's just the thing. And I think the developer is very correct, Priska. Okay, so can you kindly show again more slowly how to submit a task? Okay, all right. So basically, did I close? Oh, okay, nice. Okay, so basically what you do is on your design, click on share. And yeah, this is for Jane. So you click on share, then you ensure that you set this to can view, not can edit. So this should be can view. Anyone with the link, right? Make sure you select anyone with the link can view. Then you copy the link, right? So when you copy the link, you go into Discord. I don't have Discord opened right now, or maybe I should, but that might take some time. So once you are on Discord, you have to send a message to the Comrade bot, right? The Comrade bot would assist you with, submitting. Okay, hold on, let's see. All right, I think. Okay, so all you have to do is send the message directly to the bot. Let's see if I have the Comrade bot right here. All right, so the Comrade bot, all I'm simply going to do is task 1. I'm sure you might not. Okay, so I'm simply going to do task 1 space, then I paste in that link and I send this message, right? So now it is telling me, I don't have a valid display name, of course, because I don't have a valid display name. So this is correct for me, right? But you should have the FE. Remember, the FE for you guys, you should have UI UX, right? So you should have this as part of your name, right? If you don't have this, it's going to still give you the same complaint. So it would always check your name to ensure that it's able to identify your track, right? And yeah, try as much as possible to make sure you submit this to your track, because if you submit this to a different track, then your assignments might be filtered away at the end of the day. So ensure you have UI/UX on your name. So yeah, I think that is all. Okay, so I'm going to take the other questions real fast. Confusing because according to him, the developer will need the color codes for developing. No, not compulsory. I mean, you can actually work with the colors you pick from Figma. If you're working with Figma, if you're not working with Figma and maybe you're working with something like, maybe like a tool where you are not able to share the link with the developer, that is a bit of a problem, right? So if you're working with Sketch or any other tool like XD, there are tools you would have to use, and I think I have an example here, but I'm not going to talk about that. It's called Zeppelin. You can use Zeppelin to wrap that design and send it over to the developer. But for Figma, the developer can always pick the color you have there, whether it's with opacity or not. So I don't think that is a problem. But I think the major reason is because the developers also need to be sure of the color that they are using, and you don't have to say. So yellow is not orange, right? So if you have like probably a color, maybe you have yellow sitting on a black color and you apply opacity and it begins to look like orange, that doesn't make it orange. So you have to ensure you're sending the right color. And what's the difference between high fidelity wireframe and prototype? Okay, so I'll take that as well just to be fast. High fidelity is when you have your final implementation, right? Which can also be called mockup in some cases. But the thing is, when you call it a mockup, it's probably because you're putting it on kind of like a 3D view, maybe like a phone or like a desktop or like a laptop screen, you know, those kind of designs, right? A wireframe is basically a sketch, you know, that we just did. And a wireframe is in 3 stages, right? A high fidelity is also a wireframe, right? A mid fidelity and a low fidelity are also wireframes. There are 3 types of wireframes. And I think that is part of the earlier, you know, the introductory session of this call. So you can always check the video. The prototype means you have added interactions and someone can actually like move from one screen to the other, right? So that's what the prototype is. And is this from Figma community that you got to download the material? Yes, there are so many kits, you know, you can download from the Figma community. Okay, so I think that's all, and we're good. All right, guys. So have a wonderful day, and I'm sure you have a productive day. And yeah, that's all from my hand. Bye.
Maka, I think, yeah, up to you.
Okay, so that's all for today. See you later. Your class is by 8 p.m. Ensure to click on the link in the event session to join the class. So with that said, have a nice day.